Part 26. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 251. At noon, the old housekeeper of the He family arrived at the agreed place early with gold bars. I have to say that there is something special about the eight-faced Buddha. It was chosen in a small plain area at the junction of Myanmar and Thailand. The view from here is unobstructed and there is no place to hide people. It avoids the He family's use of underhanded tactics. Of course, the same goes for the eight-faced Buddha. The possibility of both sides taking advantage of the evil is very low. The old housekeeper put his hand on his forehead to block the sun and looked forward anxiously. It was almost noon, but there was no shadow at all on the other side. Is this where the eight-faced Buddha is talking about? Make no mistake. The old housekeeper looked at his watch and turned to ask the bodyguard. That's right, that's what he said about trading here. It shouldn't be wrong, right? The bodyguard didn't dare to finish his sentence. Maybe the eight-faced Buddha will call later to say the location has changed. The old housekeeper shook his head helplessly, raised his head and looked forward again, only to see a few small black spots in front of him. He said happily, "Here we come. This time, no matter what, I must bring the eldest son home safe and sound, and I must not betray the trust of the master." As the vehicles got closer and closer, several off-road vehicles stopped steadily in front of the old housekeeper. Shali opened the car door, walked out, and looked behind the old housekeeper carefully. His father, the eight-faced Buddha, told him to be careful. After all, Miss He was Li Qing's woman. Maybe there would be a sudden attack from the New World. Shali winked at his younger brother, and the pickup truck equipped with a machine gun began to circle around the convoy brought by the old butler. It wasn't until his younger brother signaled that it was okay that Sarith picked up the walkie-talkie and said, "Abba, it's okay." Another off-road vehicle drove up from a distance, carrying the eight-faced Buddha and He Guang. "Haha, Mr. He is worthy of being the boss of Hejiang, and he really keeps his word." The eight-faced Buddha stepped out of the car and extended his thumb. He looked around and saw that there was no ambush this time. He was very happy that the gold was recovered. "Eight-faced Buddha, I brought the gold. Where is my young master?" The old housekeeper was more worried about He Guang's safety. After all, after the rich man was kidnapped, the kidnappers made many noises. "Don't worry, your young master has not lost a hair," the eight-faced Buddha waved happily. He Guang, who was all dirty, staggered out, his eyes dull and his mental state obviously very bad. Seeing the old housekeeper, he said with tears in his eyes, "Uncle Zhong, you are finally here." Shali curled his lips when he saw this. This guy was a bitch when he was in the camp. He had tears in his eyes all day long. He was even more coquettish than Sister Lin. Hey, eldest son, are you okay?" The old housekeeper, Uncle Zhong, was also very excited. He had watched He Guang grow up and had never seen him in such a mess. The old housekeeper was about to step forward, but was stopped by the eight-faced Buddha. "Stop, where is my gold?" Uncle Zhong waved, and the bodyguard immediately opened the carriage. There were gold bars neatly placed in the wooden box in the carriage. "Sorry, ask someone to move it out." Because the eight-faced Buddha's men often come into contact with gold, they have long been familiar with the inspection process, and they also have a set of instruments to test the purity of gold. I saw them take out a small piece of gold from the box, cut off a small piece, and put it on the instrument for testing. After waiting for about 10 minutes, the boy nodded and said it was okay, but he walked to the eight-faced Buddha with a hesitant expression. "Master Ba, I looked at it and half of the gold in it is the one we lost." The eight-faced Buddha was stunned when he heard this, looked at the old housekeeper again, and then asked, "Did you read that correctly?" "That's right, our special patterns are printed on them." The younger brother nodded and confirmed. The eight-faced Buddha pushed aside the He family's bodyguards and went forward in person, opened the wooden box and took out the gold nugget. Yes, his logo was printed on it. The face of the eight-faced Buddha turned white and red for a while. This was a murderous act. He seriously doubted whether the He family had joined forces with the New World to swallow his gold. Okay, your He family is great. I didn't expect that even my little money would be calculated. The eight-faced Buddha smiled sadly. The old housekeeper of the He family also heard the change in the eight-faced Buddha's tone, frowned, and quietly shook the hand behind his back. The He family's bodyguards all started to be alert and tightened the automatic rifles in their hands. If you have anything to say, please tell me directly. All the gold you want is here, no less. If there is no problem, we will take the eldest son away. The old butler, Uncle Joan, is also a man who has seen the world. He has followed old man He for so many years and has seen a lot of things. So I have prepared for the worst, but I must save the eldest son's life, even if it costs him his own life. What's the matter, he? Tell me, are you cooperating with the New World to mess with me? Didn't he try to bring flour to the New World? Does Li Qing need to kill everyone like this? The old butler tilted his head with a question mark. He knew the relationship between his master and Li Qing best. The master wished that Li Qing was being shot coldly every day, so why would he cooperate with him? No, you misunderstood. It is absolutely impossible for us to cooperate with Li Qing. The old housekeeper patted his chest and said. Seeing the old housekeeper's behavior, the eight-faced Buddha also frowned. Did I think wrongly? This person doesn't look like he's cheating. At this time, the sound of a helicopter sounded in the air. On the helicopter, Li Qing was thinking about the next development direction of the counterfeit banknote business. New World counterfeit banknotes seem to only flow to Southeast Asia, but in fact South America is the major customer of counterfeit banknotes. What the Product Trading Crow looked at the two groups of people on the ground in the distance with his binoculars in surprise. What's wrong? Li Qing was interrupted by the crow and asked curiously. Looking in the direction pointed by the crow, the two parties on the ground were obviously trading something. Telescope. Li Qing squinted and couldn't see the faces of the people on the ground clearly. Crow quickly handed the telescope to his eldest brother Li Qing. Picking up the telescope, Li Qing looked at the two people. Isn't that old man He's housekeeper? Could it be? Li Qing's eyes flashed, and a smile hung on the corner of his mouth. The two parties underground stared at the two armed helicopters in the sky, not daring to move. In this kind of terrain, helicopters are definitely a killer. Besides, except for the machine gun on the pickup truck, the eight-faced Buddha and his men did not bring any other heavy weapons. Fortunately, the helicopter flew slowly, which made both sides relieved. Damn, never mind, hurry up and finish the transaction and leave. The eight-faced Buddha wiped the sweat from his head. He suddenly regretted finding this broken place. There was no place to hide. With one hand handing over the gold and the other hand handing over the person, both parties put down their worries after the transaction. They began to retreat slowly, alerting each other, and were on guard against sudden attacks from the other side. Dad, the helicopter is back again. Sala stared blankly at the helicopter in the distance, getting closer and closer. The eight-faced Buddha looked up with a tense heart, and sure enough, the helicopter that had already gone far away turned around and flew back. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 252. Bang, bang, bang. The machine guns of the two helicopters opened fire, focusing on Pick, who was carrying a machine gun, which was the only weapon that posed a threat to the helicopter. Get down. The eight-faced Buddha had just gotten down when the pickup truck a few dozen meters away was blown up, with fragments scattered everywhere, some of which flew directly past his scalp. The two helicopters began to fly at low altitude, one in front of the other, and the door machine guns poured bullets like plowing the land. The people on the ground were directly blown up, and the fragments of the body were scattered everywhere, and some did not even have time to scream. Although the eight-faced Buddha and others on the ground fled in all directions, human legs were not as fast as helicopters. The two helicopters harvested lives on the ground like two sickles of death. Even the He family gave up driving and ran towards the Thai border. At this time, driving a car would definitely be a helicopter target. Don't look at some protagonists in the movie driving to avoid helicopter shooting, that's all nonsense. In this kind of terrain, cars can't outrun helicopters at all. Fortunately for the old housekeeper, the other side's target seemed not to be them, but the eight-faced Buddha. "Uncle Joan, I can't run anymore." He Guang, who was already weak, couldn't run any more now, and could only be carried by several bodyguards to run away. "Young master, hold on." The old housekeeper cursed his bad luck in his heart. Who knew that he would encounter such a thing? Now they can't stop. It's possible that the other side will turn around and kill them. The eight-faced Buddha in the distance can't care about the gold now, and he just wants to escape. But his fat body and old age can't run fast at all. Shali and his younger brother each carried him to the small hill in the distance. As long as they ran to that place, there was still a glimmer of hope. The idea was good, but the two helicopters in the sky would never give them a chance. Finally, after another plowing shooting, the eight-faced Buddha's right leg was broken, and his son Shali was broken into two pieces and died in despair. Seeing that there was no one standing on the ground, the two helicopters landed. The people on the helicopter quickly jumped down, holding guns and standing guard. Li Qing slowly got off the helicopter and walked towards the fallen eight-faced Buddha. The eight-faced Buddha struggled to support himself on the ground with both hands, and opened his eyes wide to see the appearance of the person coming. "You are the eight-faced Buddha." Li Qing looked at the eight-faced Buddha, who was slumped on the ground, with a look of embarrassment on his face and white bone stumps on his right leg. The eight-faced Buddha laughed miserably, knowing that he was doomed today. "Ahem, tell me who it is, so that I can go to the king of hell to complain, and I will know who it is." Li Qing took out two cigarettes, lit them, and put one in the eight-faced Buddha's hand. Both of them took a deep puff of the cigarette and looked at each other. "Good cigarettes. You are not an unknown person. When I entered the industry, I knew that this day would come, but I didn't expect it to come so suddenly." Li Qing exhaled a long column of smoke and smiled. Eight-faced Buddha, eight-faced Buddha, you secretly sold goods in my territory while I was away. Who do you think I am?" Eight-faced Buddha looked at Li Qing in astonishment, lowered his head and was silent for a moment, then smiled knowingly. "At the beginning, it was just because someone used counterfeit money made by New World that he lost millions of dollars. Failed to find the liar, had to make trouble for New World, but didn't expect to end up like this. Everything is fate, not a bit of it," Li Qing said softly. He, Li Qing, you are also a side job, don't you think it's ridiculous to say this?" Eight-faced Buddha looked at Li Qing fearlessly. "The same side job, why do you, Li Qing, look so noble?" He didn't accept it. He didn't think he was any different from Li Qing. Li Qing looked at the eight-faced Buddha, whose face turned pale due to excessive blood loss. "You know what? The biggest difference between you and me is that I have a bottom line. I don't touch flower, I don't deliberately induce people to gamble, I don't force good women into prostitution. The most important thing is that even if I die, I can say without guilt when I meet my ancestors, I am a descendant of Yan Huang, I am a Chinese. After saying that, Li Qing looked at the eight-faced Buddha with contempt, and then said, "Ask yourself, can you do it?" The eight-faced Buddha was speechless, thinking that he took this path to make a living, and then his power became stronger and stronger, and his heart became more and more greedy. He even formed a fixed team to lure people to take drugs, which harmed many people, and their families were broken up, and they often woke up in the middle of the night. After a long silence, his breathing became heavier, and he felt that he was no longer able to do it. He slowly lay on the ground, stretched out his hands to gather all his half-long hair to his forehead, and covered his face with hair. He was too ashamed to see his ancestors. Looking at the eight-faced Buddha who was slowly stopping breathing, Li Qing had no intention of pitying him. As one of the drug lords in the Golden Triangle, the eight-faced Buddha had caused so many people to be destroyed. This kind of death was a good thing for him. "Brother, the gold has been loaded." Crow came to Li Qing and asked in a low voice. This time, New World got a good deal again. It was equivalent to earning double the gold. Because there was no strong container, it could not be towed away by helicopter. Just now, Crow and his friends discussed that it was just right to drive the He family's truck back. Li Qing threw down a half-smoked cigarette, "Let's go," and then got on the helicopter and flew to the Thai border. Crow and Beza drove slowly behind. The truck also met the He family members walking on the road, and Crow even proudly gave He Guang and others a middle finger. "Uncle Zhong, the car that just passed by seems to be our car," a bodyguard said softly. The old butler's face was ashen. If he saw it correctly, the person sitting in the car was one of Li Qing's right-hand men, Crow. He Guang was breathing heavily, and the Crow's middle finger just now almost took his breath away. "Our car, please tell him to stop quickly. I can't do it anymore. I really can't walk." Things went smoothly afterwards. Li Qing thanked General Ai Peng and said that he would bring something different to him next time. Gold was also transported to Xiangjiang by water. Now the gold reserves in the New World are as bright as those of some famous jewelers in Xiangjiang. Xiangjiang, Mongkok New World headquarters. Xiaoma and Wu Ziyuqing stood in front of Li Qing. "Have you rested?" Li Qing glanced at Wu Ziyuqing, who was dressed in professional attire. Wu Ziyuqing nodded, "Thank you, Mr. Li. If it weren't for you, I would have died in the Golden Triangle." She didn't know whether to call her boss or something else, so she just called him Mr. Li. "No, you are a member of the New World. I will protect you for one day," Li Qing said with a smile. Li Qing called her and Xiaoma here mainly to ask about the production of new counterfeit banknotes. "Both of you are experts in this field. You must grasp the direction of the new counterfeit banknotes. If you have any difficulties now, just tell me." Xiaoma looked at Wu Ziyuqing. After all, she was an expert in counterfeit banknotes. She was more professional than him in this aspect of making banknotes. Wu Ziyuqing thought for a while. "Mr. Li, we currently lack engraving and gravure printing machines, ink, and we have relatively few manpower. You should be able to get it from a printing press, but ink is a little difficult. The printing press is easy to solve. It is not difficult to get a gravure printing press in Ukraine. It is just a question of how much money it costs. There is currently no solution for ink. Countries have strict protections for special inks. What suggestions do you have for manpower?" "Mr. Li, have you ever heard of Painter? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all." Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 253. Li Qing raised his eyebrows when he heard this. Of course, he knew the painter, but he didn't know who the painter was. It sounds contradictory, but in the movies of the previous life, there was no conclusion about who the painter was. Because the entire movie plot was imagined by Li Wen, Li Qing now only knew a few people who might be the painter. Not sure which one is the real painter. Painter? I don't know. Li Qing smiled lightly. He wanted to hear what Wu Ziyuqing had to say, maybe she could know who the real painter was. Wu Ziyuqing looked at Li Qing, lowered her head and pondered for a moment. No one knows the true face of the painter, because painter is just a code name. It may be a person, it may also be an organization. But the Secretary General and I met a person named Li Wen in their counterfeit banknote organization. Wu Ziyuqing was kidnapped in Thailand, and Naike asked the Secretary General to take Wu Ziyuqing to inspect a batch of counterfeit banknotes. In a secret building, she met the painter's team for the first time. Unfortunately, the painter did not come, and the person who came was Li Wen. "How are the new counterfeit banknotes they made?" Li Qing asked with interest. Mainly, he wanted to compare it with the plot in his mind to see how far the plot of Wushuan has developed. "Perfect. It can't be detected without special instruments. The watermark, gravure printing, and color-changing ink are almost exactly the same as the new version of US dollars. But it seems that they produce very little. According to my guess, it should be because of the acid-free paper or ink that they can't print in large quantities." Wu Ziyuqing guessed. The perfect counterfeit banknotes of the painter team are shipped in small quantities, and are basically sold to regular customers. So there is basically no impact on the counterfeit banknote business in the New World, which is why Xiao Ma didn't pay attention to the painter at the first time. Li Qing frowned and thought for a moment. "So, Xiao Ma, start with this Li Wen and check the painter team, especially their printing location." In his opinion, the painter has now obtained a gravure printing machine and 2 barrels of ink, and Li Wen should not have completely solved the ink problem. "Crow assists Xiao Ma to get this done," Li Qing said in a deep voice. The crow beside him nodded. After everyone left, Li Qing closed his eyes and tried his best to recall the scenes in his mind. If Wushuan did not have the reversal in the last 10 minutes, it would be a police and gangster film without any novelty. But the last 10 minutes overturned everything that came before, and Wu Fuxian turned out to be the painter imagined by Li Wen. Li Qing knocked on the table unconsciously. "Li Wen? Ruan Wen? Wu Xin?" At this time, Li Qing did not know that Southeast Asia had caused some turmoil because he killed Naike and the 8-faced Buddha. After Li Qing and others left, the Secretary General began to gather the remnants of Naike and became a new drug lord and warlord. The destruction of the 8-faced Buddha made the surrounding drug lords like sharks smelling blood, and cruelly divided the territory of the 8-faced Buddha, whether it was territory, women, or farmers growing drugs. Since then, the Golden Triangle has spread the rumor that it is better to provoke the King of Hell than Li Qing, and all the drug lords, big and small, have witnessed the revenge of the New World. Each warned his subordinates not to provoke the people of New World unless it was absolutely necessary. It also made the reputation of New World even louder in Southeast Asia. After receiving the order from their elder brother Li Qing, Xiao Ma and Crow quickly took action. Fortunately, it is certain that Li Wen and others are in Hong Kong, otherwise it would be difficult to find them. In central Hong Kong, Xiao Ma, Wu Ziyuqing and others were sitting in a business car. "That's Li Wen," Wu Ziyuqing whispered. Others looked in the direction of Wu Ziyuqing's finger, and a middle-aged man with rustic clothes and glasses appeared on the street. Li Wen carefully looked around at the entrance of the exhibition, and then walked into the exhibition center. "I didn't expect this person to like to watch the exhibition. It's better to print more money." Crow laughed and joked. Li Wen must be studying painting, otherwise he would not be valued by the painter team, so it's not surprising that he is interested in the exhibition. Wu Ziyuqing explained. Xiao Ma thought about it. Li Wen had met Wu Ziyuqing. Since he was dealing in counterfeit money, it was hard to guarantee that he would not attract Li Wen's attention. He had to let Crow go in to see what was going on. Crow walked into the exhibition with a swagger. As soon as he walked in, he saw a large oil painting hanging in the center of the exhibition. "Nguyen Van?" Vietnamese, Crow muttered softly as he looked at the name on it. Then he shook his head. He couldn't understand it anyway, so he looked for Li Wen in the crowd. What surprised him was that he clearly saw Li Wen walked around the exhibition, but didn't find him. He had to scratch his head and walk out of the exhibition. What? Did you find him? Xiao Ma asked curiously. Li Wen didn't come out? He wasn't inside. Crow's words made Xiao Ma and Wu Ziyuqing look at each other. They had been staring at him, but they didn't see Li Wen come out. Several people waited until the exhibition closed, but they didn't see Li Wen come out. Let's go. At this time, they also knew that Li Wen must have left through the secret door. In the following days, Li Wen was never seen again. This left the investigation team consisting of Crow, Wu Ziyuqing, and Xiao Ma at a loss. They did not dare to mobilize a large number of people to look for him, so as not to alert the enemy. They had no choice but to come to Li Qing to apologize. "Brother, I lost him." Crow looked up at his brother and said in a low voice. "Ahem," Li Wen seems to have noticed something. "He hasn't appeared since he saw the exhibition." Wu Ziyuqing explained softly. "Exhibition?" Li Qing frowned after hearing this. "It should be Ruan Wen's exhibition. Li Wen's words in the movie are 70% true and 30% false." Li Qing wondered if it would be better to arrest Ruan Wen directly, although he was not sure if she was a painter. But Li Qing shook his head and immediately got rid of the idea in his mind. He was looking for a printing factory. What if Ruan Wen was just an ordinary painter? If he arrested Ruan Wen, he would definitely alert the enemy. Who knows, the painter might immediately move to the printing factory. No. Li Qing knocked his head. He seemed to have focused on Li Wen from the beginning. This way of thinking was obviously preconceived, because the entire plot of Wushuan was unfolded from Li Wen's perspective. So the angle that Li Qing brought in was also Li Wen, ignoring other people, the most important of whom was the technical master of the team Wu Xian. After thinking for a moment, Li Qing said in a deep voice, "Go to Hollywood Road and keep an eye on an antique dealer named Wu Xian. He is also a member of the painter team." Xiao Ma and Wu Ziyuqing looked at each other. Big brother Li Qing had not heard of painter a few days ago, but he didn't expect that within a few days, he would have accurate information about the members of painter. Crow looked at the two with contempt. Isn't this operation very normal for the big brother? The few people didn't dare to delay, and quickly arranged for the younger brother to drive and rush to Hollywood Road. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Bulletin Liang. Chapter 254. Inside Wuji Antique Shop, Wu Xian closed the shop door, got in the car and left. "Follow up, let the brothers behind keep a distance," Crow ordered. The younger brother who was driving nodded, and contacted other vehicles with the walkie-talkie. After going around on the mountain road, Wu Xian's car was finally found in a hidden halfway up the mountain. Crow took a look with the telescope and handed it to Xiao Ma. "Brother Xiao Ma, it seems this is it. The geographical location here is extremely secretive, and it looks no different from an ordinary cave from the outside. How about it, do you want to go in and take a look?" Crow asked excitedly. Xiao Ma is still more stable than Crow. He doesn't know how many people are inside, and how many weapons there are. It may not be a wise choice to rush in. It's better to send a younger brother here to find out how many people the other side has, and then go back to report to the eldest brother and make plans. Go back first, leave a few people to observe carefully from a distance. Wu Ziyuqing also nodded in agreement. Seeing that both of them disagreed, Crow curled his lips. After all, he didn't come from a background of chopping people, so he's just timid. Wu Xian walked into the banknote-making base and pushed his glasses on the bridge of his nose. This Li Wen is getting more and more restless. It seems that he has been very close to Lin Liwa and Shen Sihai during this period. Li Wen is a down-and-out fake painter recruited by Wu Xian in Canada. He took a fancy to Li Wen's ability and pulled him into the group. Unexpectedly, he now has the momentum to keep pace with him and has a good relationship with all the team members. Recently, he even went out privately against his orders, which made him very annoyed. Wu Xian walked into the banknote making room angrily and looked at Li Wen. Li Wen, I said that before trading this batch of counterfeit banknotes, no one is allowed to leave the base without my order. Are you deaf? Li Wen spread his hands with the wronged look on his face. Uncle Xian, it's not a solution for you to keep everyone here like this, not to mention that I just went out to buy some food. Although the others didn't say anything, they were also complaining about Wu Xian's decision in their hearts. Wu Xian can come and go as he pleases, but they have to stay here. It's a bit unfair. Wu Xian looked up at the other team members and said nothing. Instead, his tone softened. I know everyone is bored, but I hope everyone can be patient. The big customer Naike has been killed. The remaining batch of goods is a bit slow, please understand, and rest assured that everyone will make a lot of money this time. Wu Xian continued to paint a big picture. The quality of the counterfeit banknotes this time is very good. Some customers have already opened 10 to 1. If the ink had not been used up, it would be impossible to stop working. Uncle Xian, why don't you let me try? After all, I can't let you suffer alone, right? Li Wen looked at Wu Xian with a playful look, with a little intention of forcing him to abdicate. Humph, Wu Xian snorted coldly, no need, I have found the customer, and I can make a deal after I meet him. After encouraging other members, Wu Xian turned around and left. In fact, he was already very dissatisfied with Li Wen in his heart, and he didn't expect Li Wen to even want to get involved in the transaction. Fortunately, I had a plan. Li Wen looked at Wu Xian's back with an inexplicable expression, and a gleam in his eyes. He winked at Lin Liwa and Shen Sihai, and the two nodded in agreement. 10 minutes later, the three met again in the printing room. Uncle Xian has been bullying us for so long, and we always divide the money according to what he says. I don't accept it. Li Wen said viciously. No one except Uncle Xian knows how much they can earn. How much each person can get is up to Uncle Xian. What can we do? All the channels are with Uncle Xian. The boss hasn't shown up for a long time. Shen Sihai spat fiercely on the ground. This time, Uncle Xian made the new version of the counterfeit banknotes, and the boss didn't show up at all. I might as well kill him and get an extra share. A fierce light flashed in Li Wen's eyes. The other two looked at him in surprise. You're crazy, the boss will kill you. Haha, not necessarily. I have found a way to make ink now. Who do you think is more valuable in the boss's eyes? Li Wen smiled confidently. What? You found a way to make ink? The two looked at Li Wen in surprise. The most important reason why the production of counterfeit banknotes could not be increased was the ink. I didn't expect Li Wen to find a solution. I'm afraid Wu Xian couldn't have thought that the down-and-out painter he casually recruited could actually find a way to make ink. The two lowered their heads and pondered for a while, looked at each other and nodded. Okay, then we'll get more. As long as the goods are good, why worry about buyers? The three looked at each other and smiled. However, we still need a reputation to deal with Uncle Xian, Lin Liwa said with a frown. Don't worry, I've been prepared for a long time. The last time I went to Canada for a transaction, the old guy bought an antique clock with counterfeit money. He broke the rules. Li Wen smiled sinisterly. The rule in their business is that they cannot use counterfeit money they make themselves, because it is easy to dig out the carats and bring them out of the pit. Once discovered by the police, it is easy to be arrested. Li Wen has figured out everything. It was Wu Xian who broke the rules. No one else can say how to deal with him. In fact, what Wu Xian said in the printing room just now was not a lie. Rosen, an old friend from Canada, introduced him to a new client. Now is a good time to meet him and quickly deal with the remaining goods to avoid more trouble. Driving to a yacht on the seashore, Rosen deliberately invited many beauties to show off. Rosen, such a big show. Uncle Xian looked at the beauties on the ship and smiled. Uncle Xian, long time no see. It just so happens that I recently bought a piece of blue and white porcelain. Please help me with the selection later. Rosen stood up and hugged Wu Xian. He and Wu Xian are old friends. They met in Canada. Both of them love antiques. They are quite knowledgeable about antiques, whether they are foreign or domestic. Wu Xian's eyes lit up. No problem, I'll take a look after I finish my business. After the two of them exchanged greetings, Rosen introduced the person next to him to Wu Xian. Uncle Xian, this is Bishop Ma. Wu Xian was about to reach out, but when he saw Bishop Ma's appearance, his pupils shrank instantly, his face changed slightly, and his smile became stiff. Uncle Xian, hello. Bishop Ma, hello. Rosen left at the right time, letting the two negotiate the price themselves. Wu Xian tried to remain calm and discuss the transaction price, time, and place with Bishop Ma expressionlessly. Finally, Wu Xian and Bishop Ma looked at each other, and Bishop Ma nodded imperceptibly. Wu Xian breathed a sigh of relief and turned to leave. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 255. Outside the banknote-making factory, the boys squatted for 2 days in a row. Based on the analysis of how much food Wu Xian delivered each time and how often the trash cans were cleaned, there were about 5-6 people inside. Xioma, Crow, and others learned about it and reported to Li Qing. Li Qing smiled after hearing this. Since he knew about the banknote-making factory, he had no hesitation. He didn't care who the painter was and directly sent people to capture the entire painter team. But before that, we still have to catch someone. If this is the painter, we can't let her run away after hearing the news. Xiao Ma, please contact AO and ask him to lead the group there first. In the movie, regardless of whether there is Wu Fusion or not, the force of the banknote making team is still acceptable. Only a few people killed a base in Nakai. Although Li Qing also thought it was nonsense, 1 against 100, Mater, compared to them, the 2 armed helicopters he used were too low. Crow, take me to pick up a woman, Li Qing said softly. Crow nodded and quickly asked his younger brother to drive. The two came to the gallery, and today happened to be the last day of the art exhibition. The protagonist of this art exhibition was Ruan Wen. A man hurriedly walked up to Ruan Wen and said something. Ruan Wen's face changed drastically. After apologizing to the art dealer, he hurriedly got into the car and drove towards the northwest. Brother, do you want to pursue me? Crow originally thought that the eldest brother was picking up which sister-in-law. I didn't expect to pick up this female painter. He couldn't help but murmur to himself, is this the female painter too? Li Qing was also puzzled. He was planning to wait for the exhibition to end and let the crow catch the woman, but he didn't expect that she would take the car and leave on her own. Follow me. The boy who was driving the car was unambiguous when he heard it and quickly followed him. Ruan Wen walked more and more remote, until she stopped at the edge of a jungle. When Li Qing was about to take action, a business car drove up from a distance with several people sitting in the car. Ruan Wen made a phone call, got into a commercial vehicle and left. Brother, this is the direction of the banknote-making base. Crow identified it and said softly. Let's go, follow them and see what they are up to, Li Qing said in a deep voice. Wu Xian brought food to the banknote-making base as usual. After opening the door, he was shocked by the scene inside. It was empty, all the tools had been packed away, even the gravure printing machine had been shipped away first. What are you doing? Where are the things? Why do you want to evacuate? Wu Xian dropped the food and pulled Shen Sihai in fear. and then walked towards Li Wen. Angrily, he grabbed Li Wen's collar and asked, "Li Wen, what are you doing? What the hell? You have the nerve to ask me. If you don't leave, why don't you leave and wait for the police to come and arrest you?" Li Wen pushed Wu Xian away, pointed at him and angrily said, You broke the rules by using counterfeit money to buy an antique clock in Canada." Wu Xian's face turned pale and he took a few steps back, staggering and almost falling. How could that happen? How could that happen? He couldn't understand how this matter could be exposed, it didn't make sense. Li Wen was not polite and dragged Wu Xian to the empty rooftop. "Uncle Xian, you taught me that rules are rules and cannot be broken." Li Wen looked at Wu Xian who was kneeling on the ground expressionlessly. Click, the gun in Li Wen's hand was already loaded. Li Wen, you want my hands, let me go. I was the one who brought you into the industry. I am not abiding by the rules. Cut off my hand and I will give it to you." Wu Xian knelt on the ground and stretched out his trembling hands, begging. "Cut your hand off? How to write the rules?" Li Wen squatted down and looked into Wu Xian's eyes and asked. "No, you can't do this to me, painter won't agree." Wu Xian made his last effort. "Haha, the painter has known this for a long time. What did you think I was doing last time?" It turned out that the last time he went to an art exhibition was to meet the painter. Wu Xian collapsed, sat on the ground, and begged, "Don't kill my wife and daughter, ignore their affairs." Li Wen stood up and pointed at the members behind him. "When you used counterfeit money, did you ever think about our lives?" The other members looked at Wu Xian coldly. Once the police came to their door, none of them would be able to run away. Da-da-da, a sound of high heels sounded. Attracted everyone's attention. "Painter! Painter!" Everyone said hello. When Wu Xian saw the person coming, he seemed to have hope for life. He knelt down in front of the painter and kowtowed, "Bang bang bang. I was wrong, painter, I was wrong, go around me this time. For your dad's sake, go around me." After a while, Wu Xian's forehead was bleeding. Ruan Wen looked at Wu Xian who was kneeling on the ground and said, "Uncle Xian, for the sake of my father, I can spare you. But what about your betrayal of us?" Ruan Wen's words not only stunned the members of the banknote-making team, but also stunned Li Qing, who was quietly observing her not far away. Did I miss something?" Ruan Wen waved, and two young men took out a man covered in injuries from the commercial vehicle. "Bishop Ma." Wu Xian saw the man's appearance clearly and screamed. "He also has an identity, that is Canadian policeman Li Yangzhe. Uncle Xian, don't say you don't know him. You deliberately used the counterfeit money to sell the antique clock. I guess it has not only your fingerprints on it, but also other people's fingerprints, right?" Ruan Wen glanced around and looked at Wu Xian with contempt. Li Wen and others suddenly remembered the scene when they made the first perfect counterfeit banknote and passed it around to each other. It turned out that Wu Xian had sold them long ago. Wu Xian wanted to clear his name and had communicated with the Canadian police in private. As long as he caught all these people, he would only serve a few years in prison at most. Bishop Ma is his contact person. Everyone wanted to kill Wu Xian. "Haha, why can't I clear my name? Why should you?" Bang, a gunshot sounded, the bullet hit Wu Xian between the eyebrows, and the sound stopped suddenly. Li Qing frowned when he heard half of the words. He felt as if he had missed something. Suddenly he saw two little ants on the ground communicating with each other using their tentacles, and he seemed to understand something again. "Brother, Ao and the others have arranged the arrangements," Crow whispered in Li Qing's ear. Li Qing nodded and said a few words in Crow's ear. Crow was stunned for a moment, then nodded and slowly retreated. Ruan Wen looked indifferently at Wu Xian, who was lying on the ground lifeless. "Clean up and let's go." "Let's go? Miss Painter, where do you want to go?" Li Qing's sudden voice startled Ruan Wen. The banknote-making team took out their guns and pointed them at Li Qing and others. Put down the gun, otherwise I can't guarantee whether it will go off. Li Qing held the cigarette between his fingers and tapped Ruan Wen's chest. Ruan Wen looked down at the shaking red dots on his chest and decisively dropped the gun in his hand. When the others saw it, they also dropped their guns. It's okay if you don't throw it away. Those with many red dots can instantly smash them into pieces. I forgot to introduce myself, New World Li Qing. Li Qing looked at Ruan Wen opposite him with a smile. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 256. Ruan Wen's eyes flickered. She had naturally heard of the famous names in the New World, and had even studied the counterfeit banknote business in the New World. There is no conflict of interest between the two parties at all, because their painter team makes perfect counterfeit money in the high-end market. As the New World counterfeit banknote group sinks to the bottom, the quality of counterfeit banknotes is still far behind them. As a well-informed painter, she naturally has a fearless face. But when the rest of the painter team heard Li Qing's name, they all murmured in their hearts, not knowing how to offend him. Their eyes were wandering, as if they were thinking about something. Mr. Li, if there is a conflict in business, we can leave Hong Kong, and I promise never to sell counterfeit banknotes in Southeast Asia. Ruan Wen's mind changed and he showed weakness. Li Qing looked at her with a smile. No, I think you can consider joining the New World. After all, the counterfeit money market is huge, and we can make more money together. In this way, I provide funds and sales channels. You are responsible for the technology. Li Qing pointed at everyone in the painter team. When Ruan Wen heard this, he almost choked on his own saliva. Isn't this just asking people to work? Whether you give him money or not depends on Li Qing's face. Isn't this an obvious annexation? After hearing this, the others all fell into deep thought. For them, who is working for and not working for? That is, the problem of sharing too much money and too little money. They have heard that New World has a good reputation on the road and never withholds wages. Then Mr. Li, how much can we share? Li Wen asked before Ruan Wen could say anything. Ruan Wen glared at Li Wen fiercely, obviously dissatisfied with him asking questions without permission. Li Qing looked at Li Wen seriously and said with a smile, everyone knows that I am generous, but only to those who are useful. How much you can divide depends on your ability. Li Wen's eyes lit up when he heard this. He knew that his opportunity had come. As a down-and-out painter, he knew the importance of the opportunity and he wanted to work hard to climb up. Then if I make counterfeit banknotes with color-changing ink, how many points can I get? Oh, Li Qing glanced at Li Wen in surprise. He didn't expect that Li Wen could produce color-changing ink so quickly. This way I make the decision and give you 1% of the points. Not enough, Li Wen shook his head. Li Qing looked at him deeply and said nothing. Instead, he looked at Ruan Wen again. Painter, it seems that your subordinates are very greedy. Aren't you afraid of being stabbed in the back if you keep such a person by your side? Li Qing I pointed out something. Ruan Wen took a deep breath. She regretted killing Wu Xian. This Li Wen was too ambitious and used himself to get rid of Wu Xian. Now he is the only technical master in the team, and he has also mastered the production method of color-changing ink. If this continues, sooner or later the team will be controlled by Li Wen. All he lacks now is channels. I agree. As soon as Ruan Wen spoke, Li Wen rushed to say, Mr. Li, I think I can personally cooperate with New World. After all, except me, everyone else is just doing odd jobs. Li Wen is very confident now that he is the only technical member left in the painter team, and he is qualified to negotiate terms with New World. Oh? Let me ask you now, do you really want to join the New World? Li Qing asked in a deep voice. No, no, Mr. Li Qing, I'm talking about cooperation, not joining. Li Wen waved his hand. Li Qing looked at Li Wen's head and saw that there was nothing on his head. He knew that this Li Wen could not be conquered. He raised his finger and pointed at Li Wen, then clenched his fist. Bang! A gunshot rang out, and Li Wen's forehead was instantly pierced by a bullet. Li Wen fell down slowly, with an expression of disbelief on his face. He never expected that the opponent would strike so decisively. Others were also startled by the gunfire and looked blankly at Li Wen, who fell to the ground. Li Qing knew from the plot of his previous life that Li Wen was a thoughtful person, and his many years of downturn made him desperate to climb up. If you don't kill him, you don't know how much trouble it will cause you. This is someone who can harm even his own master. He is a white-eyed wolf that will never be raised well. Did he give Wu Ziyuqing plastic surgery in his last life just to satisfy his own selfish desires? Li Qing believed that it was most likely that he wanted to kill Ruan Wen and let Wu Ziyuqing pretend to be her, so as to continue to control the painter team. As for why he didn't kill Ruan Wen in the hotel, he might have discovered that Ruan Wen was not actually a painter. Why did you kill him? He knew how to make color-changing ink, Ruan Wen asked in surprise. Li Qing glanced sideways at Ruan Wen. He didn't believe that Li Wen didn't tell Ruan Wen the ratio of the color-changing ink. Miss Ruan, don't tell me. Li Wen went to the art exhibition to find you, but he didn't tell you the specific production method and ratio of color-changing ink. If Li Wen hadn't told her, she would not have acquiesced to Li Wen replacing Wu Xian as the first person under painter. If you really don't know, I'm sorry, but you are of no use to me, Li Qing said expressionlessly. He still insisted on his guess that Li Wen must have told her how to make the color-changing ink. Ruan Wen remained silent and did not speak. She did have the color-changing ink ratio in her hands. This was the only bargaining chip she could use to negotiate terms with Li Qing. Li Qing was not in a hurry, took a puff of cigarette and looked at Ruan Wen calmly. Okay, I will cooperate with Mr. Li. As for the issue of dividends, I believe Mr. Li will not let us down. Ruan Wen pursed his lips tightly, as if he had made a decision. Li Qing stretched out his index finger and waved, No, 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 Miss Ruan still misunderstood me. What I said was not cooperation, but you're joining the New World. Painter is not worthy of cooperating with New World. After all, the size is different. Talking about cooperation will only make people laugh. In this world, the big fish eats the small fish. Cooperate. Only two whales of similar size can cooperate and win-win. Ruan Wen looked at Li Qing angrily. The Painter Banknote Counterfeiting Organization is ranked among the top in the global counterfeit banknote industry, but now Li Qing wants to annex the entire painter. It seems that Miss Ruan can't make a decision? How about asking the real painter to come out? Li Qing looked at Ruan Wen playfully and said. A trace of panic flashed in Ruan Wen's eyes, but he still said expressionlessly, Mr. Li, what do you mean by this? I am a painter. We can join the New World, but we still have to make the channels ourselves. Ruan Wen randomly found reasons to suppress Li Qing's suspicions. Haha, don't worry, Miss Ruan, we are waiting, we should be on the way. Li Qing tapped the dial of his watch and said. As time passed, Ruan Wen seemed more and more anxious. Even the members of the painter team saw that there was something wrong with Ruan Wen. Tisk, the brakes sounded, and an off-road vehicle stopped steadily dozens of meters away. Haha, the real painter is here. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Bulletin Liang. Chapter 257. What are you doing? Let me go, I tell you, assaulting a police officer is a serious crime. I advise you not to make mistakes. Let me go, I'll pretend nothing happened. Crow came over with his two younger brothers and a man wearing a black cloth over his eyes and wearing a uniform. Brother. Nice job, Li Qing praised it. Crow stepped forward and pulled away the black cloth. The sudden light made Wu Zhihui squint his eyes, and it took him a while to get used to it before he could clearly see what was in front of him. Why did you arrest me? Did I offend some big boss? I'm just a soldier, it's none of my business. Wu Zhihui saw the people around him, as well as the young men with guns and ammunition on the New World side. Especially when he glanced at the corpses of Wu Xian and Li Wen on the ground, he was so frightened that he collapsed on the ground. Ba Bang Li Qing clapped as he watched Wu Zhihui's performance. This acting skill was indeed much better than that of the little fresh meat in his previous life. Li Qing slowly walked up to Wu Zhihui and squatted down. Wu Zhihui? I think it's Ruan Zhihui, right? Li Qing took an entry form from Wu Zhihui, male, born in 1956, ancestral home in Fujian, born in Wansheng Community, Dong An County, Hanoi City, Vietnam. This kind of entry form is easy for New World to obtain, and even salary tables, sign-in forms, etc. are not a problem as long as New World wants these. Big brother, stop playing around. I'm just a small police officer. There's no point in doing this to me. Wu Zhihui begged with a sad face. Ruan Wen secretly glanced at Wu Zhihui and bit his lower lip. Haha, painter, you really don't want to give up until you reach the Yellow River, okay. I'll make you give up today. Li Qing reached out and tapped Wu Zhihui, smiling. I pulled out an identification registration form from underneath. It was written all over in Vietnamese. Fortunately, there was a Chinese logo underneath. Yes, the crow has grown. This crow actually thought so carefully. It seemed that he learned a lot in front of Dongxiu. Li Qing nodded with satisfaction. Brother, is there anything wrong? The Vietnamese gang just sent it? If the information is incomplete, I'll let them find it again. Crow scratched his head and came closer to Li Qing happily. Okay, overestimating the crows again. Go away, the Vietnamese gang is pretty good. In just half an hour, so much information was retrieved through the address. The painter didn't expect that, did he? It's a secret, but why did you write down your birthplace in such detail? Do you think the New World has no friends in Vietnam? Li Qing threw the information directly at Wu Zhihui. Wu Zhihui tremblingly picked up the identification registration form, which had a photo of him when he was young, and the name written on it was indeed Ruan Zhihui. This boss, I don't know this person. He just looks a bit like him. I don't know who he is. There was a cry in his tone. Crow looked at Wu Zhihui in surprise. Holy shit, the Yellow River has arrived, and you still don't give up? Do you want me to find your childhood friend from Vietnam and get to know you? Haha, okay. Li Qing took out a ring from his pocket and threw it to Wu Zhihui. Don't tell me that you don't recognize this ring either. You can't make mistakes with your family's rings. This ring was taken off Nakei's body by Li Qing himself, because he vaguely remembered the collision of their rings in the movie, but he didn't know if it was Li Wen's imagination, so he simply gave it to Wu Zhihui to try. Wow, it's just like the ring on your hand. You still don't recognize it? Crow pointed at the ring on Wu Zhihui's left hand. As Wu Zhihui picked up the ring, his expression calmed down and he stopped acting. Haha, Mr. Li Qing is awesome. I have only heard about it before, but this time I saw it for myself. The move of feigning death to escape was perfectly designed by me. I didn't expect it. Wu Zhihui, no, Ruan Zhihui dusted himself off and stood up. Haha, if I guess correctly, there is a bullet hole in your left chest. In fact, Li Qing was just suspicious at first. After all, he only knew the general plot of Wushuan. He had doubts from his previous life. Nakei's age should be about the same age as the painter's father, otherwise it would be impossible for him to be friends with the painter's father. Just like what Nakei said in the movie, he and the painter's father are brothers. The painter who talks to Nakei should be Nguyen Van. Li Qing also doubted Li Wen at first, but Li Wen's background was very clean, and it was impossible for a painter to be so destitute that he could make a living by painting fake paintings. If it's Wu Xin, it's unlikely. After all, Wu Xin's age is not much different from Nakei's. So this painter is most likely Nguyen Van. Especially what Wu Xin said just before his death made Li Qing connect all his doubts in an instant. If I'm not wrong about what Wu Xin said, it should be why can't I clear my name? Why can your father do it? Right, Miss Ruan. Li Qing smiled and turned to look at Ruan Wendeo. Okay, amazing. But there is one thing I still don't know. I haven't appeared from the beginning to the end. Why did you find me? Ruan's Hiwi asked curiously. After he was assassinated by the Russians from Nakei in the Netherlands 7 years ago, he simply faked his death to escape and used Nguyen Van to remotely control the entire painter team. He had never appeared in front of them, so naturally no one suspected him. Li Qing didn't say anything. He couldn't say that I had seen you in a previous movie. The director couldn't have arranged for you to be like this for no reason. It's because of your daughter Ruan Wen. Ruan's Hiwi looked at his daughter in confusion. It was true that he had been in contact with his daughter, but they were all contacted by phone. They had not even met a few times in 7 years, like strangers. Why did Li Qing know? Oh, what does it have to do with her? As a painter, he can't control the team. Wu Xin and Li Wen both have their own ideas. Only 6 or 7 people are divided into 2 gangs. Isn't the management ability of the painter too low? If the painter only had this ability, it would be impossible for him to be so successful in the counterfeit banknote industry. If the real painter was Ruan Wen, he would have been eaten up by others long ago. Besides, you don't think I can't find your and Ruan Wen's mobile phone communication records, right? When it comes to the day of shipment, they will contact frequently, even more than a dozen calls a day. Isn't it easy to find someone by number? Li Qing shook the phone and said. Papa Ruan's Hiwi clapped his hands. I admire you. This is the 3rd time Ruan's Hiwi praised Li Qing. This young man is amazing, and his mind is so meticulous. With a few barely detectable clues, he was able to find the person responsible. He is indeed a leader of a powerful force at a young age. In fact, Li Qing is thinking of Li Wen now. In the movie of his previous life, Li Wen must have found Ruan's Hiwi through clues. At the police station, according to Ruan's Hixing's appearance, whether it is right or not, the police will definitely find out the details of Ruan's Hiwi. He can take the opportunity to kill Ruan Wen and let Wu Ziyuqing, who has undergone plastic surgery, replace Ruan Wen and completely control the resources of the painter. It's a pity that he met Li Qing in this life, otherwise he might have succeeded. So Li Qing was also very decisive in killing him. It is impossible to leave a person who has no loyalty and is meticulous around him. It is better to kill him directly. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 258. Ruan's Hiwi walked to Ruan Wen and hugged her. Dad, I'm sorry, Ruan Wen said softly. There's nothing to be sorry for. I'm just inferior in strength and strategy. Those who know the current affairs are heroes. Joining the new world is not a bad thing. Ruan's Hiwi patted Ruan Wen on the back and said softly. If the painter had a force like the new world as its backer, Nakei would have to think carefully before taking action. Boss Li, I and the painter team have requested to officially join the New World Group. Ruan's Hiwi stretched out his right hand. What he said was very level. I took the initiative to join, not forced to join, and there is no shame in saying it. Li Qing dropped the half of the cigarette in his hand and smiled. Of course he had to give this face, otherwise Ruanzhiwi would not be able to lead the team in the future. He reached out and held Ruanzhiwi's right hand. "Welcome, from today on, you are a part of my new world," Li Qing encouraged loudly. Ruanzhiwi's eyes flickered, he was truly impressed by this big shot who was much younger than him. With both high EQ and IQ, this kind of person has an unlimited future, and you will not lose your place working under him. Li Qing happily looked at the loyalty value entries that appeared on the heads of Ruanzhiwi, Ruan Wen, and others. It seemed that Ruanzhiwi was sincere this time. "Brother," Ruanzhiwi bowed slightly, and everyone else bowed and shouted when they saw this. "Okay, this is the pony in charge of the counterfeit money. From now on, the counterfeit money business will be left to you two." "I'm very relieved." Li Qing pulled the pony beside him and introduced. These people exchanged pleasantries again, and only the two corpses of Li Wen and Wu Xian were left, lying cold on the ground. In contrast to the liveliness in front, there is an unspeakable irony. Both of them are careerists, one wants to be in power, the other wants to clear his name, but unfortunately they both failed. 2 weeks have passed, and the painter team and the New World counterfeit banknote team have integrated very well, simply exerting the effect of 1+1/U003E2. In particular, the resources of the New World are not comparable to those of the painter team. If you want something, you can get it in the afternoon if you send a message in the morning. But we also encountered some problems. Li Wen's method of making ink was right, but he obviously left a few tricks on the ratio. The counterfeit banknote team has never been able to find the perfect ratio. We can't rush this kind of thing, we can only try it step by step. Anyway, now that there are many people in the team, we will be able to try it out sooner or later. Time passed quickly, and every time Li Qing came back, he would pay homage to his grandfather and his boss Lianqin. This time was no exception. After taking care of some chores, Li Qing led Hong Kong students and a group of confidants to the cemetery. The younger brothers are not stupid. Every time the eldest brother pays homage, he brings Hong Kong's sister-in-law with him. Obviously, Hong Kong is more important in the heart of eldest brother Li Qing, and he is a proper wife. Moreover, this sister-in-law is very popular in the hearts of the brothers. If the elderly person in the family is sick or has a disaster, the sister-in-law will definitely come out to express condolences in person and send some health products and the like. In fact, they, Li Qing's direct descendants, are not short of money, but they are very touched by the sister-in-law's kindness. Invisibly, the status of the sister-in-law is higher than that of other sisters-in-law. The wind was very strong today, so Hong Kong students stepped forward to button Li Qing's shirt. "Let's go. I haven't been here for a long time. Grandpa and the boss just don't blame me," Li Qing joked. In fact, he was not in Xiangjiang, but he always sent Hong Kong students, Qian Dan and others to pay homage, so the tombstones and other things were very clean. A group of people walked to the tombstone, and the boys began to clean the fallen leaves around the tombstone. Li Qing looked at the photo on the tombstone and said, "My grandson is unfilial and has not been able to come to pay homage again and again. But my grandson has indeed accomplished several important things during this period. You should be more informed than me below, so I won't go into details. I know that hundreds of countries are far away, but I don't dare to forget the dangers and years. Your teachings will never be forgotten." Li Qing knelt in front of the tombstone and took 3 deep bites. Hong Kong Shen naturally accompanied him. After talking about family matters again, Li Qing walked to the grave of the boss Lianqin. A variety of famous wines had been placed in front of the tomb. Li Qing knelt down and lit 2 cigarettes, placing one on the tombstone and smoking the other himself. "Hey, boss, don't say I don't take care of you. 2 brothers have gone down recently, but they are both ruthless characters, so don't stop pretending in your dreams that you were beaten again. Li Qing smoked a cigarette and joked. The corpses of brothers Ma Long and Wang Yao have been brought back and laid to rest. You guys stay away, I want to talk to Brother Kun about what's on my mind. Li Qing waved his hand, and the younger brothers immediately backed away. Only Hong Kong Sheng stubbornly stood beside him quietly and refused to leave. Li Qing smiled and did not chase her away. Brother Kun, the deadline is still 6 months away. I don't know if the path I'm taking with my brothers now is the right one. Li Qing smoked a cigarette and whispered. The organization has grown rapidly over the years, and it was all due to his ability that he built such a large stall in such a short period of time. Despite his previous knowledge, he could not see the details of the general trend clearly. Only then could he show hesitation and anxiety. With so many people's lives in his hands, he was under great pressure. The smoke from the cigarette was scattered in the wind, and the cigarette was quickly finished. Li Qing had no choice but to take out a cigarette again and put it in his mouth, but the wind blew and the lighter couldn't light up at all. At this time, Hong Kong was animated. He knelt down and unbuttoned his windbreaker to block the wind for Li Qing. Li Qing raised his head and glanced at her, feeling inexplicably moved, and his eyes became much firmer. Hong Kong Sheng didn't say anything, but just stayed with him carefully. Li Qing hugged the tombstone of Liang Kun and raised his eye corners. Brother Kun, your sister-in-law. Are you jealous? I didn't expect that I, Li Qing, who was born as a bad boy, would meet such a good woman. After exhaling a long column of smoke, Li Qing now knew what to do and did what he thought was right. No matter what, this world will always leave stories about me, Li Qing, good or bad. Brother Kun, I am much more powerful than you now. There are new world territories in both sides of the Taiwan Strait and Hong Kong. If you don't believe me, I will dig you out and take you around. After Li Qing was in a good mood, he joked. The hearty laughter drifted in the wind, and even the younger brothers looked at each other in surprise. Their boss hadn't been so happy for a long time. The crow not far away pouted his mouth, looking unhappy. Crow, what's wrong with you? Zhang Dongzhou touched him. The last time the boss worshipped, he let me stay by his side. I didn't expect that he would chase me away this time. Zhang Dongzhou rolled his eyes, damn, deep well eyes. Turning around, he muttered, isn't I the same? After about half an hour, Li Qing stood up, straightened the wrinkles on his clothes, and bowed deeply to Liang Kun's tombstone. Let's go, Brother Kun. You will see how I can dominate the world in this huge wave of the times. After saying that, he waved his hand and said goodbye to Liang Kun. All the younger brothers looked at Li Qing respectfully as he got on the car. The sound of firecrackers rang out in the village in the distance. The story of 96 ended just like that, and 97 is coming soon. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Bulletin Liang. Chapter 259. With the arrival of 1997, New World has begun to wrap up some of the last black industries. According to Li Qing's instructions, the black industry gradually moved to the north of the Gulf and Southeast Asia. Completely separate white products from gray products. If this point is not clear, there is no guarantee that they will not be purged. As for the younger brothers, they basically can't get away with it, so we simply let them choose, including Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and Southeast Asia. But what Li Qing didn't expect was that almost half of his brothers chose Southeast Asia. After all, it was relatively close to Xiangjiang and only took a few hours by boat. Various departments in New World are carrying out industry split in an orderly manner. On a sunny morning, Fang Ting came to Li Qing's office with a piece of information. Brother Cheng. Xiao Ting, what's wrong? Li Qing was also a little puzzled when he saw Fang Ting, calculating the time until tomorrow night. There's something wrong with finance. Fang Ting's face was a little solemn. Li Qing also sat up straight and looked serious. Mainly on the Thai side, there are some problems with gang lending in Thailand. I have compiled statistics for the past 6 months and found that many gangs such as the Thai M Club, the Black Horse Gang, and the Nach Hai Gang have disbanded one after another, resulting in bad debts of more than $2 million. In addition, several big gangs such as Bangkok Gang and My Gang also owe several months of repayment. Fang Ting took the information and came to Li Qing to explain to him one by one. This situation is very abnormal. 1 or 2 may be a problem of capital turnover. Now even the Bangkok Gang has no money to pay back. The problem here is huge. You must know that the Bangkok Gang is the largest force in Thailand and has a good relationship with the New World. Logically speaking, this should not be the case. Li Qing looked at the data on the document and frowned. He couldn't remember exactly when the financial crisis broke out in Thailand, but it should have been in early 1997. Is it the financial crisis in Thailand? You must know that the Asian financial and economic crisis started in Thailand. Let Fang Zanbo come for a visit, Li Qing said solemnly. He wanted to know what the recent fluctuations in international finance were. Fang Zanbo received the news and hurried to the headquarters. Brother, are you looking for me? Zanbo, what are the recent trends in Thailand's finance? There are more bad debts in Thai gangs now. Fang Zanbo was stunned, lowered his head and thought deeply for a while. Thailand's real estate sector has been inflated recently, and there should be a large influx of foreign capital from Thailand into the stock market. And I heard that several international investment capitals had made moves in Thailand some time ago, but they were resolved by the Thai government. Li Qing's eyes flashed, that's right. This time the Thai government resolved the situation, but it may not happen next time. Fang Ting and Zanbo quickly withdraw funds from underground banks, and except for a few well-connected and powerful associations, all others are restricted from borrowing. Li Qing said with burning eyes. He wants to withdraw all the funds before the quantum fund causes trouble, and then waits for a big windfall after the financial crisis. Li Qing already has a clear goal, which is industry, especially the electronics industry, Tay Power, Shenyang Electronics, etc., and the automobile industry. This is the next stage of development. Withdrawal of funds. Brother Qing, except for Thailand, other regions are developing very well. At this time, funds will be withdrawn. Fang Ting didn't finish her words. Okay. We will withdraw the funds immediately. Fang Zanbo interrupted Fang Ting. Brother, actually I also feel that the financial market is unstable recently, especially in Thailand. In fact, last year, Fang Zanbo accidentally saw the prediction of Morris Goldstein, an economist at the International Monetary Fund. In Southeast Asian countries, the currencies of various countries are experiencing impacts from all directions, and a financial crisis may break out. Thailand, in particular, has more risk factors and is more vulnerable to the impact of international hot money and financial turmoil. But his prediction did not attract people's attention. However, Fang Zanbo was very interested after hearing it, carefully studied Thailand's economy, and even more agreed with Morris' prediction. Li Qing glanced at Fang Zanbo in surprise. He was indeed the son of luck who killed Ding Xie. He was able to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages through subtle changes in the stock market. Do you think we can make some money from the financial crisis in Thailand? Li Qing asked curiously. Fang Zanbo glanced at Li Qing and shook his head. International capital is not allowed. Their operation seems to be very simple. They use leverage to short sell, causing the currency of other countries to depreciate, and then purchase high-quality resources at low prices. The important thing here is international hot money. New World assets cannot compete with them now. Li Qing smiled and waved his hand. Confront? No, Why should we compete? We want to cut off the beard. Fang Zanbo opened his mouth wide in surprise. Cut off his beard? Isn't that what it is? Li Qing lit a cigarette. We have our advantages. What are we? Fang Zanbo was shocked. What are we? We are gangsters, Fang Ting blurted out quickly as she thought quickly. Yes, we are gangsters. As long as we use Thai gangsters to get the high-quality assets they value before Saras bargains, no one can do anything to them. This is the advantage of gangsters, they never have to care about the law, because their existence is illegal. This is not difficult for gangsters. Okay, you go make arrangements first. Although Fang Ting still didn't fully understand Li Qing's decision, she followed his words unconditionally. As he walked out of the door, Fang Zanbo shook his head. The financial crisis in Thailand that Big Brother Li Qing mentioned should not happen, right? After all, the Thai government has a lot of reserves, at least much better than the Philippines, so it shouldn't repeat the same mistakes. In a blink of an eye, Thailand's financial and economic situation has become worse and worse, especially with the participation of Quantum Fund, the leader of international hedge funds. The entire Thai financial situation has become increasingly severe, and an invisible confrontation is unfolding. In February, international investment institutions borrowed up to $15 billion from the Bank of Thailand and sold them on a large scale in the spot market, causing a sharp change in the Thai baht exchange rate and triggering financial market turmoil. In March, the Central Bank of Thailand required banks and other financial institutions to increase the ratio of bad debt reserves. In May, Quantum Fund took action again. The Central Bank of Thailand banned the lending of Thai currency and significantly increased the overnight repo rate, causing Quantum Fund to lose $300 million. In June, Quantum Fund took action 3 times, and Thailand's foreign exchange reserves fell by $30 billion, leaving only $2.8 billion in foreign exchange reserves, and it has lost the ability to continue to intervene in the foreign exchange market. The Thai government announced that it would abandon the exchange rate system of the Thai baht pegged to the US dollar, which had been maintained for 14 years, and implement a managed floating exchange rate system. The Southeast Asian financial and economic crisis officially broke out. At this time, the New World had already prepared sufficient US dollars to harvest a wave of high-quality industrial resources. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Bulletin Liang. Chapter 260. Just when the Thai people were worrying about their daily livelihood, Li Qing led the New World team to Bangkok, Thailand. Sawadika. Long time no see, Qing. Sawadika. Sayer. Li Qing hugged Sayet, the boss of the Bangkok gang who picked him up at the airport. Thayer is a typical Thai, with dark skin, strong limbs and calluses on the joints of his hands. At first glance, he looks like someone who practices boxing regularly. The Bangkok gang is New World's biggest ally in Thailand and the largest gang in Thailand. It is even very powerful in surrounding countries. See, how are you doing? Did you receive the goodies I sent you last time? The two talked on the phone from time to time, and when trading arms, Li Qing gave him some collectible pistols from time to time to communicate with each other. Haha, I use it very well. I asked my little brother to pick the bloodbird's nest I gave you. You didn't give it away, did you? Thayer said jokingly. The two of them joked a few more jokes that all men would understand. Thayer's tone dropped. The Bangkok gang has been having a hard time recently. Damn the international speculators. They have messed up the Thai economy. In the past, the Bangkok gang made a lot of money from the popularity of real estate. Now, since the financial crisis, all the money has been wasted, leaving only some worthless unfinished buildings. This is also the reason why I have been owing New World for repayment recently. Li Qing sighed, oh yes, these people are so hateful, they deserve to die. The crow in the distance looked at his boss's compassionate look and almost laughed. Everyone knows that New World is here to acquire some high-quality resources at low prices. Forget it, brother Li Qing must have a good time when he comes here. We have a lot of fun things in Thailand. Thayer said with a smile. Haha, say, let's talk as we walk brother, I'm not here to play this time, but we have business to work with. Li Qing looked at Sayer with a smile. He has an in-depth understanding of the Thai economy and combines it with the future development trends of Thailand in the previous life. It is concluded that among the industries that New World can participate in, there are two most profitable ones, tourism and rubber plantations. But both of these are indispensable with the support of local gangs. Rather than living alone, it is better for everyone to cooperate and win-win. There is endless money to be made in this world, and the result of eating alone is that sooner or later you will be starved to death. If you want to make money in Thailand, you can't get around this local snake in Bangkok. Sayer heard this and laughed happily. Now the entire Thai economy has been in recession for several years, and people line up to jump off buildings every day. The people at the bottom have no money, and the gangsters who are lying on them to suck blood certainly don't have a hard time either. Welcome, welcome. If you can come to Thailand to invest at this time, it will definitely be a help in times of need. You are our good friend. Thayer hugged Li Qing excitedly. I don't know, brother Li Qing, where do you want to cooperate? They asked curiously. No matter how you look at it, the current time is not suitable to invest in Thailand. Rubber plantations and tourism. Li Qing wants to acquire rubber plantations on a large scale in Thailand. In the future, Thailand will be the world's largest rubber producer and exporter. It is estimated that the annual export volume can even reach $6 billion. What's more, Li Qing doesn't want to just make primary products. For the Dragon Power condoms produced by New World, several rubber plantations in Java can no longer supply the raw materials. No one expected that this thing would be sold out. He planned to simply build a branch factory in Thailand. The cheap raw materials here were no different than picking up money. There is no problem with rubber plantations. I know that there are several large rubber plantations that are eager to sell. But when it comes to sightseeing, I wonder what brother Li Qing is interested in. In Thayer's view, Thailand's tourism industry has just developed in recent years, and it only became popular with the Singapore-Malaysia-Thailand tourist route. But it is only popular in Bangkok, Chiang Mai and other places, and the flow of people in other places is not very large. Phuket, Li Qing said with a smile. In fact, Phuket's tourism industry started as early as 1974. However, affected by the financial crisis, many tourism companies went bankrupt. Now not only Li Qing has taken a fancy to these industries, but also some speculators in international hot money. This is also the purpose of Li Qing's personal visit to Thailand. He needs to use the Thai military and the underworld to obtain the tourism development rights of Phuket Island. Sayer lowered his head and thought for a moment, okay, since brother Li Qing is so optimistic about Thailand's economy, then our Bangkok gang will give it a try. The two shook hands with each other and reached a preliminary consensus. As for the details, the Thai military, Bangkok gang, and New World had to sit down and talk slowly. Next is a series of tours in Thailand arranged by Thayer. As for the inspection of the rubber plantation and Phuket Island, New World's professional team will naturally operate it. In recent years, the New World has developed many industries on the right path and has recruited a large number of high-tech talents, so Li Qing and others do not need to worry about these things. Professional things need to be done by professional people. Sitting in the private room of the bar, Li Qing and Say were chatting. Zhang Dongzia was on guard not far away, and Wu Wu led the other boys to dance wildly on the dance floor. Li Qing picked up the wine glass and clinked it with Say. He looked at Zhang Dongzia next to him and said, Dongzia, you go down and play too. Look, the crows are already hugging each other. Sure enough, looking from above, The crow held a beautiful woman in each hand, twisting happily like a small fish in a pond. Sayer also smiled when he saw it. Brother Crow, you have good taste. These two are the most beautiful transvestite queens here. Li Qing almost spit out the wine in his mouth when he heard it. Crow is really like that. He found two transvestites right away. Zhang Dongzhou stretched his head to take a look. Don't say that this transvestite is indeed, bah. He shook his head quickly. The little lawyer is the best. Let's go, brother Li Qing, I'll take you to see something interesting. Sayer smiled mysteriously. Li Qing raised his eyebrows and followed Sayer with a little curiosity. The three of them took the elevator directly down to the underground floor, and were respectfully led by several younger brothers to a mysterious box. On the side opposite the door was a panoramic floor-to-ceiling window. There were a few sofas in front of the floor-to-ceiling window. The table in the middle of the sofa was full of tropical fruits, which was obviously arranged by Sayer's younger brothers. Please. You're welcome. The two sat on the sofa at the same time, looking down at the boxing ring on the underground second floor. Huh? Black boxing. On the ring, two people were fighting back and forth, almost to the end, and the audience around them were waving their betting tickets and shouting. The blood and sweat stimulated their nerves, and they desperately shouted the names of the boxers they bet on. But the two people in the audience were a little different in size. One was a tall white man with long hair, and the other was a typical Thai. Although he had some muscles, it was far from that. The white man beat the Thai player without much effort. He raised his hands and yelled loudly, and by the way, he hugged the bartender who passed by him, and scared the girl to scream. Thai boxers are all garbage, haha.